Welcome to the Humble Hoof Podcast. My name is Allyssa Harlov. This is a podcast for both horse owners and hoof care professionals, offering discussions into various philosophies on the health of the hoof and soundness of your horse. Please check us out on Facebook or at thehumblehoof.com. So this podcast episode is going to be a little different than our average episode. I hopped on a call with Allyssa Stratton, Beth Lynn Lewis, and Michael Linton to talk about what we look for in an ideal hoof care client. And yes, there are some horror stories and vent sessions thrown in there, but overall, we love the people we work with, and chances are, if you're listening to this episode, you're probably already a pretty great client. So feel free to share it with friends that may benefit and enjoy our somewhat crazy conversation. Okay, cool. So who wants to start? Allyssa, do you want to start?
We're going in alphabetical order. My name is Allyssa Stratton, and I'm a hoof care provider in San Ynez, California, which is up north of Santa Barbara. And I've been doing this for about 11 years now.
Perfect. Beth,
okay.
Do you want to go?
Yes, I'm Beth Lynn Lewis of Equibalance Farrier Services, and I've been a full-time farrier in northern New England, mostly in the New Hampshire area. And yeah.
I'm Michael Linton. I have been a farrier for 11 years, and I'm in Connecticut. I work on a mixed practice, but it does tend to be more towards the shoeing side.
Yeah, awesome. And I've met all of you in real life. I don't think either of you have met Allyssa. I have.
Nope.
Yeah, and Allyssa and I often lament over Facebook Messenger. We'll kind of vent about our day, and I feel like a lot of our conversations have revolved around clients and what we look for in clients, and when we realize a client might not be fitting well with our ideal.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I thought that'd be a good topic to discuss because some owners, I think, honestly don't realize that some things they do might not be helpful, or some owners, would take feedback of what they can do and actually make our lives easier if they just knew. So,
oh gosh, yes.
Yeah. I think just to start the conversation, and it's so funny because I mentioned this over our group chat and I don't even know what I would say, but the first question just to start us off is, do any of you have, a client characteristic that is your most important? And I don't know if Allyssa wants to start because I know I chatted with her a little bit.
So my number one attribute that I look for in a client is definitely an open-mindedness and a willing to experiment. So say your horse has been diagnosed with PPID, and we find that they're becoming sore again at the seasonal rise. Are you willing to try to up their pergolide? Are you willing to try to test hay if you haven't gotten your hay tested? Are you willing to really try and figure out what the root cause is? Or are we shutting down all the suggestions? So I really look for somebody who wants to work with me and who wants to try new things.
Yeah, I get so excited when I have clients like that.
I know, that's like the number one hoorah time.
Yeah. Beth or Michael, do you guys have something that you feel strongly about in that respect?
I think the number one attribute, I don't know, I guess just not being crazy, right? Like, it's just, some people are just a little, I'm crazy. I've got my issues. We've all got our level of what we're going to put up with. We get these phone calls, and I don't answer the phone if it's not a client. We've got our cell phones and we've got these things that tell us who's calling. If it's not a client, I don't answer. I let it go to voicemail. It's either spam or it's a new client, and I'll listen to the voicemail. And if I get a good feeling from the voicemail, then I think, hey, potential client. Either way, I'm going to call somebody back. But basically, I think that's where we start, right? I mean, just if the person sounds like they're just not going to match my personality, what I need from them, And it's a little unfair because a lot of the clients that I would turn away today, I wouldn't have turned away 5 years ago. And I still have and love a lot of those clients. But my screening process has just gotten a little more, the books are full basically, right? So to take somebody new, you maybe have to lose somebody else. And so basically, I guess just not to sound crazy would be the number one aspect. People are generally going to work with me and with the vets. So yeah, I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
That's so funny. No, I love it because when you mentioned like, oh, you only pick up your phone for clients, I was like, I never pick up my phone for anyone.
Same. I don't call I tell clients or new clients like, hey, if you called me, chances are I'm working and I don't have my phone. It stays in the truck, so my focus is on the foot. And if I come back, there's 10 missed calls, and it's from one new client that is like, I can't reach my Farrier. The shoe fell off. I need you out here immediately. It's like
big red flag.
Here, right, huge red flag. Like that person just sounds crazy.
Nuts. Yeah.
But yeah, crazy is a big one. One thing that puts me off is when somebody texts, email, Facebook, however they reach me, and the first thing out of their mouth is, "What are your prices?"
Ooh.
That huge turn for me.
Yeah.
That I feel like immediately they're tire kicking me. And if my prices aren't within their budget, and maybe it's a really great client, maybe they are on a budget, but like soften me up a little bit. Explain why you're looking for a new Hoofcare provider. Don't just randomly send me a Facebook message. What do you charge?
It's funny, I've got I fully get the what do you charge thing, because is that the most important thing for your horse? No, it's not. But also, if I hire somebody to come out to the house to do some work for me, we're going to talk about price. Like, it's an important aspect. So I feel like we should, the client should be able to talk about it. Yeah. But generally, if that's I guess it's just one of those things that, you get your hackles up about because you get used to it.
Yes.
If they're asking that question, they're generally looking for somebody that can get out there today and, isn't charging on the higher end.
Right. Because I'll be honest about my pricing and say, well, what are you looking for? When were your horses last done? Like, I need more information.
Yeah.
Where do you live to give you a price estimate? And I'll tell people it's an estimate because, sometimes I'm not trusting of that new client right off the bat. Like, you got to earn my trust and respect a little bit. If you tell me you've been through 6 Farriers in a year, chances are I can't help you either.
Has anybody ever told you that?
Oh, I have.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Right.
Alyssa, what were you going to say? I heard you kind of start.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I totally agree with Beth when it comes to, if that's the first question, meaning I only get a line that is, what do you charge? Or what are you what are your prices? That's basically it. I have a really hard time messaging those people back, because while I do agree with Michael that you are going to talk price, and I totally get it. Everybody has a different budget. And there's a wild swing out here, especially in California. But if that's your first question to me, that's all the information you're giving me, and that's the only thing you want to know, you're probably a tire kicker, and you're just looking for the cheapest person who can do it for the fastest and the cheapest.
Yeah. I'd agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And they want the longest schedule too. They want those shoes on 8-10 weeks in the winter. And I'm like,
don't allow.
Right. Yeah. And that's something else I look for in a client is length of schedule. And I tell people I am firm. I book my schedule 4, 5, 6 weeks. Good, well-maintained horses. Yeah, we can go 6 weeks in the winter. The rest of the season, 4 or 5 weeks. And that's a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah, I agree.
If someone falls off the schedule and says, well, my horse's feet still look great, so I don't think you need to come this week. And I'll say, I'm booked the next 4 weeks. Can your horses wait that long? And I say, I don't think they can. So either I come tomorrow or chances are I'm going to be too booked. And then they complain the horse's toes get too long. And we say, hey, we got to do the schedule. And I say, I keep a schedule. So in case we do need to reschedule due to weather, snowstorms, too hot, too cold, whatever it is, the feet aren't overdue every cycle. So I'm very firm with a cycle. So I have clients that go, oh my God, I insist on a 5 week. And I'm like, me too. Like, that's a great client today.
Yeah.
Someone that keeps a cycle.
I agree.
Yeah. And actually, I like the clients that ask me what cycle their horse should be on. Instead of them
Yep.
saying like, oh, can we do 6 weeks? If they say, what do you think? What do you think my horse's feet need? What length of cycle? I really like that because then they're trusting me that I can decide how many weeks the horse can go and not end up distorting, you know?
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yep.
Yeah. And Michael, you had mentioned like way back in your answer to the first question about how you have a screening process. Is that just something that you kind of keep running in your head, or is it just listening for red flags when you're talking to someone?
Yeah, I am. Man, I don't know what the word. My wife would probably be able to describe me a lot better, but I do. I've got I guess I've got a screening process for everything, and I don't have a lot of room for BS in my life. So if somebody calls me, I might ask them some questions, about their horse and get a feel for them. Like being on a schedule is super important. The horse needs to stand for me. That's some basic stuff that I'll ask them, but I don't have a list. Like some people, I've seen some really cool lists. Generally, I'll just talk to the person and get a feel for them. And if it starts feeling weird, I'll generally just be like, who's your vet? Have you talked to them? I'll just basically just turn the conversation and be like, have you asked them for a reference or something like that? So it's kind of, a lot of it is up to feel for me. How does this person feel? And what do they want to do with their horse, and what's going on with the horse? And, are they new to horses? Is this like a big baby and it's like their pet kind of thing? And yeah.
Yeah. And I know that we don't want to, or at least I'm really careful not to like just start trash talking or anything of any of our clients. But I was wondering if any of you guys had any times where you thought you screened a client and then you showed up and thought, oh no, this was a bad idea.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
stay in and drive away.
Let me let me preface with there's a fantastic vet that I work with, Dr. Karen Nesser, and we were talking about this one client. We pulled up to their property separate times, but I was like, hey, so I went to so-and-so's house, and let me tell you what happened. And she said, I pulled up there with my granddaughter. Granddaughter travels with her a fair amount, and she had never been there before as well. And when she pulled into the property, before she put it in park, she turned to her granddaughter and said, we never have to come back here again. And she didn't. And I've got an open mind, like not everybody has the same, I don't know, financial outcomes, whatever. Not everybody's got the same stuff that they're dealing with. But I started working on this woman's horse. Wasn't my normal setup. This was a handful of years ago. So we weren't in a barn. We were in the driveway. Horse was fine. Everything went okay. But like halfway through the shoeing process, the woman's husband comes out and asks me to would you like to see my belt buckle collection? And I'm thinking, like, I'm working on your horse. I've got zero. I don't want to see your belt buckle collection, but it was a collection of Nazi paraphernalia. And, and like, I'm like, clearly, like, I don't know if that's probably never happened to anybody that I'm talking to right now, but I was really put back. And like, what do you say in that situation? If you've got a half an hour to think about it, or, you've left and you've like, oh, I've got this really good response now, but he showed me, and all I could think of to say was, I really don't appreciate that. And he put it away, and he like backpedaled it. He's like, oh, like not a big deal. Like I sell these things, whatever he said, like, like he put them away, and it was just like, okay, like this is really weird now, and, again, like the rest of the process, like shoeing and payment and like all that stuff went fine. And I was uncomfortable enough that I made another appointment, and I called up the vet that I knew had been out there, and we had a discussion, and I was just like, this is just really weird. And like, we all feel differently about different things. And, not that I couldn't work for somebody that has like very different opinions on something that I do, but it was just freaking weird. And I texted her back, and I was like, hey, whatever. I don't even know. Like, I'm busy, and this isn't going to work out. Good luck to you in the future, kind of thing, But go. Well, feel free to beat that one. Go ahead.
I know. I was going to say, I don't think I can beat that one. I mean, I think the weirdest one I've had is like where I felt really uncomfortable with like husbands of the horse owners.
Yeah, that's very different being a man, for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, I think I've probably caught like a couple of women taking a picture of me bent over and like, whatever, like have fun with that. I don't care. But yeah, it's a very different scenario being a man.
Yeah. So basically, moral of the story is respect your Hoofcare provider in all aspects.
I was thinking the moral of the story was don't show them your Nazi paraphernalia.
Or just don't have it. Just don't have Nazi paraphernalia.
Yeah, I like that one too.
I wouldn't have known what to say. I would have been stunned. I would have been that whole thing gives me anxiety. I would have been floored. But I don't know, being a woman, if the husband would have been like, hey, you want to check out my belt buckles? Like, I would have been like, no thanks, like hard pass. Like, I don't want to look at your belt buckles. Like, to me, that was like an innuendo, like, thank you. So when you said, see, I wasn't sure what he was going to show you.
I wasn't going there. No idea.
Right. Yeah. And I would have, that is no, I can't beat that story. I misjudged one earlier this summer and it was horrible, but I thought if I give the lady the benefit of the doubt, even though there was a ton of red flags, that maybe I can mold her into a really good client if she understood the importance of hoof care. So she sends me this email, like, I've got kill pen horses and they haven't been done in a while. I have a hard time picking up their feet. I look back in my emails and my notes and I never asked when they were last done. And I looked at them and these horses were ready to do the backstroke. They could go swimming. They were so long. They had paddles. And I said, when were they last? And this was like end of May into June, around that time. And she said, well, I haven't had anybody out since November. And then she asked me, she goes, where's your helper? And I go, oh, excuse me. She goes, well, my last farrier, he brought his wife and she was a vet tech, so she would sedate the horses. You don't do that?
Oh,
right. And I said, no. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I don't. I said, that's illegal for me to do. And she goes, well, how am I going to hold them? So
wow.
I said, a lead rope and a halter. And she's like, I only have halters for these two. And there were 6 of them.
Wow.
One was I was there for 5.5 hours for 6 horses.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
She totally misrepresented herself and her horses. And I forgot to ask, like, when are they? Because I would have been like, look, hourly rate.
But honestly, like, I think what you're saying, and something that I've done too, is if somebody's honest and they say, listen, like, these horses might need sedation or they don't stand well, I'll be like, okay, why don't we get a vet? We'll get there at the same time. We'll work on them together, see what we can do. Like, I almost am more willing to go into a situation like that if the owner is completely honest and they understand that the horse needs help. But misrepresenting is obviously not helpful for anyone.
Yeah. I don't think I've literally ever gone to a client's house without having a phone conversation with them. I feel like that's super important, not because like there's missing information. I need to have that conversation. Like, I need to find out, are we going to be able to mesh,
I don't know, because I don't call people. I am strictly like, I'll text or email. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to have all my new clients call you first.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'll get right back to them and then you won't have to worry about taking them. Yeah.
But honestly, I think, so where I am is I almost make it difficult for people to hire me because I want to make sure that our, philosophies align, that we're kind of, have the same goals and the same, we're both going in the same direction so that people know. I want people to look into what I do and look into, my work and really want to hire me.
Yeah, that's part of the screening process.
Yeah. And another thing that I was just thinking about today, and Allyssa, I don't know if this will necessarily apply as much for you, but the 3 of us over on the East Coast live in more of a wet environment. And days where I have to trim in mud or rain or weather, I tend to get a little bit grumpy if I don't have a place that has like dry footing, shelter over my head, especially, or for you, Allyssa, I'm sure shade is a huge thing too.
Yeah, when it's 119 out, yeah, you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, I had a client offer me an oak tree, and I was like, I'm not going to do it in 119, but I'll rent you my tools. And she's like, no, I couldn't possibly do it in this heat. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, so for me, I know it sounds weird saying the bare minimum, but for the bare minimum, I want like a flat surface that I'm not going to sink into, and that if the horse puts their foot down, I'm not going to have to pick it up and wipe mud off of it to just be able to see it. So even just a dry, clean area with something over my head, because if we're not able to see the foot, I mean, if I'm not able to see the foot, I'm not going to be able to try.
I remember a handful of years ago when I was definitely going through that, and as the books fill up and you start to change your practice, like bare minimums are a horse that stands still. If the horse isn't standing still, you've got you can't tell if the horse is uncomfortable, hock, stifle. Is he just misbehaving, or is he actually uncomfortable? And that's an important conversation to have. Having a clean and dry area, basically like not working outside, a barn with a floor that is level, not like a stall that, has a dry area, but then you can't see the foot because there's shavings or because it's not completely flat. Lighting is super important. I'm pushing 50 at this point, and like I feel like a lot of I don't know if this was an issue for me 10 years ago, roughly when I started, but now as I'm doing, I don't know if it's because I'm doing more quality work or because I'm getting older, but not being able to see is a major issue for me. I feel like a lot of places that I go into the lighting is resembling a 15th century dungeon. I really can't see anymore. I've got these like cheaters, like the reader cheaters that I use sometimes. Sometimes I'll put on a headlamp, but I go into some really nice barns and the lighting just isn't adequate. I'm essentially performing minor surgery on your horse's hoof. Like I'm making it look semi-easy, but it's really difficult. And I can't, a lot of times I can't see what I'm doing. So the lighting is really becoming a pretty major factor for me. The chit-chatting, I love talking to people about their horses, but again, making things look easier than they are. If you want to talk to me about like, so how's your week going? Like I'm kind of happy to talk to you about that, but it takes a lot of my mental effort to actually do what I'm doing. So I feel like I'm kind of cheating the horse too. It's like, it's a balancing act because it is customer relations. You want not just the client to be happy. Like it's not like a cold thing, but really I'm there for your horse. And the more that you're distracting me from your horse, it is actually taking my effort, my brain concentration away from your horse. So
I'll interrupt somebody and say, oh, hang on a second. I need to think for a minute, especially if I'm hot seating a shoe or really, I'll be like, hold that thought. Just give me 5 minutes. Because sometimes people follow me back and forth between the horse and the cross ties, and then they're standing over me at the anvil. And sometimes I'm just like, can you just give me a minute? I need to really focus here. And I have no problem interrupting at that moment.
I have actually gotten pretty good at just saying like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. Like, just hold on a second.
Because I'm already starting to tune them out. And I want to, respect them and have a conversation about what they think is important at that time. But I'll be like, just hang on. I need to focus a second there.
Yeah. And I know this is like skipping back a little bit, but going back to the barn, what you look for in your workspace, obviously lighting is huge. And I'm 33 and I still sometimes have trouble seeing the foot, especially if there's like one dim light, 10
I'm glad
feet
it's
above
not
my
just
head.
me. Yeah.
No. And one thing that I have found super helpful and made a huge difference this past summer, especially after recovering from COVID, I think I was very, very sensitive to the heat, is owners that had a fan and they offered to bring a fan out for me. I wanted to like kiss their feet. Like I was just like, thank you. Like I would love a fan and a cold drink. You know what I mean? Like it's those hot days. I mean, a fan or circulating air and shade and, staying hydrated, that can make a huge difference. And I'm sure, Allyssa, that's even more important for you since you guys get unbearably hot in California.
Yeah, but you guys are lucky over there because you have a barn with electricity running out to it.
Yeah.
And probably 1 in every 6 to 10 ranches out here. And they can be super affluent places and they're beautiful. And this is an affluent place that I work in, but not everybody has a barn. And so it makes it really difficult because you might just be under a shelter or you might have nothing, depending on how far of the walk it is. It might just be easier to pull up to the horses. I say pasture, but when I say pasture, I mean dry lot, and trim right there out in the sun versus trying to walk the horse all the way back, depending on how long that is. And I try to work with owners as best I can. I've gotten crotchety in my age just because I don't want to deal with some of the things that I dealt with when I was younger. And one of those things is, just like Michael said, horses that behave themselves. I can take a lot, but I do not like to be tugged on anymore. My back really hurts, my neck hurts, and I think that's probably for most of us. And the constant pulling and tugging. And what I do in those situations is I refer people out to a trainer that I really like. If I don't feel that they can train the horse because they've had it for X amount of years and it still can't stand very well for its feet to be picked out or to be trimmed, I refer them to a trainer. I don't want to do that work. And so I'm very appreciative when horses just stand still.
Yeah, I have owners that I adore. Like, I absolutely enjoy talking with the owner. I look forward to seeing them, but I dread like picking up their horse's feet because I know that they'll be fighting me or they'll lean all their weight on me. And like Michael said, sometimes we can make it look easy. Like, there are times when owners are surprised when I say their horse is very difficult to trim because they're like, oh, but it didn't seem like they were fighting you at all. But if they're leaning 500 pounds on me because they're just shifting all their weight onto my legs or my, my arms, whatever, that is a huge toll. It can make it feel like I've trimmed 5 horses when I trimmed 1 foot.
People have no idea. And just like with the educating on what's going on with their horse, your horse needs to stand still. And now that it's standing still and it's doing this, I can tell that XYZ is going on.
All right. So I go to a lot of different properties, and it might be a beautiful, well-lit barn, or it might be somebody's back pasture where there is no shade or cover or run-in. We have a shelter law that's only from November to April here in New Hampshire. The rest of the year, horses don't need a shelter. And I have some of those clients, and they know that if the weather's horrendous, we're just going to reschedule, and it's at my choice, not theirs. So if it's like, I don't know, and I usually don't weather cancel on too many people unless like we're getting a hurricane or something. But I've got a client who has a bunch of horses out at like 100-acre pasture, and I don't mind doing those horses. I've been doing them a long time. When I pull up at whatever our appointment time is, I always give everyone a heads up, like, hey, I'm leaving my last stop. I'll be on the way. I'll be there in 25 minutes. And that's your cue as a client to get your horses ready, get them haltered, get them in the barn, get them wherever that we're going to work. And every time I pull up, she has every single horse haltered, feet picked, fly spray ready. She has hay bags, and she hangs them off the side of her pickup truck. She drives her truck right in the pasture, and they are all tied to the bed of her truck. And I get those horses done well, fast, a good time. She has a bottle of water for me. She has cash ready. And it's one of my favorite stops. I'm in and out of there quick. I don't have to wait for her to go touch the horses, any crazy thing like that. And I turn around and look, and I'm like, I am caught up. I'm no longer running late today. And so I don't need somebody to have a barn. I don't need somebody to have like the Taj Mahal waiting for me. And, if it's dark, I'll say, let's move outside. Or I have a little clamp lamp that I can stick to my side of my tool cart. But those horses out on that pasture, when I pull up, I'm ready to work. And those horses are always waiting for me. And I love that. I thank her every time. I'm like, thanks for being ready. And sometimes she's like, oh my God, I was rushing to make sure I beat you. And she's never been late. So that's important to me, to have people and their horses ready. So when I get there and they pull in at the same time as me and like, let me go get my horse, and it takes them 20 minutes, I get agitated because I'm ready to work now. My chaps go on. I pick up tools. I'm ready.
I literally couldn't even imagine waiting. like an extended period of time for the horses to show up.
Michael Linton has arrived. He's arrived in Farrier standards. He doesn't even fathom waiting any longer.
It's so true. Where is your horse?
Have you ever left a place because somebody wasn't ready for you?
I would imagine. Yeah. My memory is pretty bad, but so I do have a high standard, like let's have our horses semi-ready. Like it doesn't need to be like lickety split like right now, but have your horse ready and like be there and let's get ready to go kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And Allyssa, you were going to say something when you were starting to talk at the same time as Beth, and I was wondering, I don't know if that was about timing.
Yeah. It was going back to kind of the horses that pull and lean, is that I worked with this amazing guy who would not call himself a trainer, but he worked with a lot of Mustangs, and he was a chemist in San Diego. And so I referred all of my clients who had less than well-behaved horses to have their feet done to him. And what I'd ask him to do, and he did it every time, was I would say, please talk to the owner as they hold the horse's foot. So you need them to hold their leg and then talk to the owner while they hold their leg. So that's going to stimulate, obviously, us taking time to trim that foot. It's not as easy as it's not as quick as just picking up the foot, picking it out and setting it back down. And I had so many clients kind of turn around and the next time I came out there go, I did not realize how bad they were to keep their foot up for an extended period of time. And it changed people's views. And that's when I stopped like getting pulled on so much because again, like I said, it just drives me crazy. So I think a lot of people don't practice holding their horse's foot up for as long as we need to work on it. It's much faster to just pick the hooves, put it down, move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all I was going to say.
I'm trying to think I think we covered a lot of really good topics, but is there anything that maybe we're skipping over that we either take for granted or haven't chatted about?
I've got one.
I'm pretty picky about what's going on while I'm working. Are there dogs running around? Which is definitely not okay with me. Like, definitely not running around. I've got a couple of spots where I go to where there's dogs, and it's an annoyance for me. The dogs are dangerous. The horse doesn't care. The dog doesn't care. But every once in a while, like you just never know what's going to happen. Like something bad can happen. Politics are really weird right now. Like I've got like a spot that I went to recently where somebody's getting super excited talking to me about politics. Where like I just want to work on your horse. And, like the arms are waving, the guy's getting excited. And like, I might even agree with you, but like, let's drop it down a notch so that like the horse isn't getting excited. I'm pretty anal about that too. Like, let's just keep the work environment calm because the horse is a flight animal. So let's keep things calm, basically. I think that's, the lighting, having a comfortable place to work. And I guess comfortable also includes the environment energetically as well. The owner and kids, horses, God only knows what else. Like, is it an 8-foot aisle instead of 10-foot aisle? Let's not have a lawnmower in the way,
Right.
Yeah. Those are really good points. Another thing too, like in some of the bigger barns, I'll ask when I book the appointment or if I'm coming back and it's been real busy, I'll say, when is it a better, quieter time? Because it's tough for staff to get around where I am. Or if somebody sets me up working in a wash rack and somebody comes by and goes, oh, I really need to give my horse a bath. And I'm like, oh, I'm 1 foot in the middle of a full set of shoes. It's going to be a while. So I try to, and I don't like working on horses when the staff is dropping grain.
Mm-hmm.
I find that unfair to the horse I'm working on. Right. And that
to the horse you're working on. How about you?
Right.
Oh my God.
Right. So that's
so my back
thing.
Doesn't mind.
Yeah. Right. So I'll ask hey, can you let me know when it's a quieter time, or ask the barn when it's better, or a certain day when farriers can work when it's a little bit more quiet. I'll say one thing though, I will go out of my way for a client that respects me, respects my time, my schedule, somebody that is never late, has horses ready. If they make me a sandwich for lunch, you're in my book for a long time And if they say, hey, Beth, I've got a horse show, can we bump up our shoe appointment? I'm going to see if I can get that done because they're a good client and they treat me well. There's other clients where if they don't treat me well, they're not right. Chances are I'm going to fold them out of my schedule anyways, you know? And so if they treat me good and are a good client and keep a schedule, if they need something extra, like I had somebody reschedule last minute emergency. She never, ever cancels or reschedules an appointment. She said, Beth, something came up. I have to leave town. And then she texted me today and said, hey, can we at least get my most important horse done? Do you have any time this week? And she's texted me and she goes, and I'll bake you a cake. And I said, I'll be there tomorrow at noon. And I plan on working a half day tomorrow, but I'm getting a cake at noontime.
So basically bribe us with food. We will take it.
Yeah. Because we're always hungry and we're dehydrated. I always tell my clients, like, you know, there's a running joke with me, like, oh, Beth's coming, have the water because she hasn't drank enough today. And so I have my clients trained to make sure I drink enough water.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. I've got one more.
Yeah.
So I can give you the best laid plan and we can definitely have forward momentum from lame to hopefully sound. But if I'm constantly getting excuses as to why you couldn't implement the plan, you were too busy, there's not enough time in the day, whatever the reason being, if I don't have at least, I don't know, half, 3/4 of like owner compliance on a case, it's really hard to make a difference in that horse's life for their feet. So my big thing is please try as best as you can to implement the plan that we've laid out so that we all can have success together.
On that note, if you're not, if the horse is on a tight schedule, I think a lot of times a client will look down at a horse's foot and be like, it looks fine, but they're not seeing what we're seeing. And if the hoof capsule isn't being brought back to where it's essentially supposed to be, I haven't seen any scientific proof of this, but I think that the hoof capsule being stretched out, I think that it stretches the sole out, and I think that makes the sole a little bit thinner. Super important on barefoot horses, but also on shod horses.
Talks about that.
If that, he's talked about it, but I don't know if there's a lot of scientific proof to back it up other than just he talks about it. And it has altered my trimming practice because I've noticed, but anyways, the trimming cycle is super important. You know, if the horse's hoof doesn't look long to you, that doesn't mean it doesn't need to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that's great that your horse's feet look great. I want them to look good the whole cycle and not
continue to look good.
They look long, then the cycle's too long anyway. So yeah,
I guess
big one.
I guess I'm lucky. Like I am militant on 5 weeks. I don't even give them unless they're a laminitic case and we have to go every 2 to 3 weeks. You have 5 weeks and that's it. And if you want to get out of rotation, I guess that's your own problem. So I'm
Yeah. And you back to what Allyssa was saying about owner compliance. I forget who said this, but I've heard it said before that, you know, I can't care more about your horse than you do. So if I'm saying like, I want you, you know, I would really love it if you could like get them out of the mud, get them on a better diet, get them blood work to see if they're metabolic. And the owner doesn't do that. Like, I feel like I care more about your horse, you know? So,
you can't care more about the horse than their owner does. Like, it's very difficult.
So can I rant about one more thing that
Please, I love ranting.
Okay. All right. I'll only discipline a horse if a client doesn't do it within seconds.
Yeah.
You know, I always leave that up to them. And I make that clear with people. Like, I'm not here to beat your horse up, but I expect you to have guidelines and rules for your horse to keep me safe. And then people sometimes say, well, I'm afraid to discipline them because you're underneath them. And I go, I move fast. I'd rather you correct them the moment they do the bad behavior, because that bad behavior can hurt me.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people they're like, oh my God, like the farrier's underneath the horse. I don't want to shank them. I don't want to hit them. I don't want to do something, because what if the horse reacts worse?
With that, there can, you know, like sometimes I'll have a conversation and be like, you know, if we're dealing with a new horse and this new horse is being reactionary, misbehaving, let's have a cue. Hey, I'm going to get out of the way immediately, and you're going to shank and back this horse up. Like, let's have a conversation.
I agree, because I move fast, but I don't know if I move that fast. And so I just want a verbal warning before you slam that horse possibly into my space. So I agree.
Yeah. And it can be simple as, if he does it again, I'm going to step over here.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we do move pretty fast. Like, obviously we have to,
Yeah.
you know? Just if I'm moving, back this horse up, like whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I think that we covered a lot of good stuff. Did we kind of get the main gist of?
Yeah. Don't be crazy. Have horses that stand well and keep a cycle.
Yeah.
That's such a big thing for me.
Right.
Just don't be crazy.
Right.
We're, like I said earlier, we've all got our own level. We've all got different levels of what we think is okay, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to let you guys go, but thank you so much. I think this it does have a lot of really good stuff. And I think if anything, it's going to be really funny for the Hoofcare people listening who will definitely relate.
Cool.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right. Well, have a good night.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool.
Nice talking to everybody.
Yeah. Have a
Bye,
good
guys.
night.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. I always say that I'm slightly more hoof obsessed than the average person, and chances are, if you're listening to a Hoofcare podcast, you are too. So we should probably be friends. Feel free to find me on Facebook or email me at thehumblehoof@gmail.com.